Welcome to Excel Magic Trick number 1042. Hey, if you want to download this workbook, click on the link below the video. In this video here, we want to talk about array functions. Here's a list of array functions. And normally, array functions are entered into multiple cells using the keystroke Ctrl-Shift-Enter. Now, in my book, I talk about array functions. And I mentioned that array functions, except for the transpose, can be placed into other functions like count, min, max, and they will not require Control-Shift-Enter. So if you have the result of an array function spitting out a bunch of values, and then you put it into another function in a single cell, you don't have to use Control-Shift-Enter. Let's look at an example here, mmult. And you don't have to know what mmult does, or it's matrix algebra, but you take one array and you multiply it by the other. Now it does matrix algebra, and it spits out an array of values. Now notice, spitting out an array of values. Now normally you take that, this right here, Control-C. I'm going to hit Enter for a second. And you'd highlight the proper range. It would be 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And you'd go Control-Shift-Enter to enter all those values into the cells. If you didn't use Control-Shift-Enter, you wouldn't get the right answer. All right, Control-Shift-Enter. That's the way array functions normally work. But what if you wanted to add the result? Well, it's an array function, and we're putting it into some other function to get a single answer from all of the values that mmult delivers. And boom, it gives you, it adds them up. Another example would be the trend function. Here's some x's, here's some y's. We can use this to calculate slope and intercept, and then with some predictor x's, estimate our units sold based on this past data. We would use the trend function, right? We'd use the trend and do Control-Shift-Enter. If we wanted to add them up, we'd simply go like that. Well, of course, if we don't really need this helper column here, we're just going to run the trend. There's our predicted values, and put it in sum and enter. And there, it's given us the answer. The idea is array functions that normally are entered into multiple cells with Control-Shift-Enter. If you want to simply put them into some other function that houses the array function, to get a single answer, you don't have to use Control-Shift-Enter. In the book, I give the example modes. Modes tells you which value occurs most frequently. But the problem with this data set is there's 3 5s and 3 10s, so there's multiple modes. You could use the new array function. The old function is mode. That's if there's a single mode. Mode.single, that's the new 2010 statistical function if you're calculating a single mode. But if you have multiple ones, you say mode.mult. You highlight those. It's an array function. It's going to spit out, if I hit F9, multiple values. If you want to count how many there are, you simply go count. Again, the array function spitting out multiple values into some house function on the outside that's housing them, and it will count and tell you there are 2. But you're not going to believe this. All of those examples, we're putting them into like aggregate functions like count, min, max, sum. Leonid at YouTube was watching Excel Magic Trick 1040. And here's the formula we did for counting unique numbers. And we use the frequency function for the data, comma, and for the bins. We put the same values in. And what does it do? Because there are duplicates in the bin, when I hit F9, it's going to count how many of each values. Only the first 5 gets a 3. The remaining 5s in that position right there and all the way at the end get a 0. So we have a pattern here. The numbers that are greater than 0 tell us there's a unique count. 0 says, hey, we don't want to count that one. So if we're trying to count unique numbers, we said that array can be used in the if, the logical test. Any non-zero number will be interpreted as true. The 0 is interpreted as false. So we use that in the logical test. Now in this book, I tell you that the if function, no matter what array, if you put an array calculation here, no matter what the outside function is, the formula will require Control-Shift-Enter, right? So we have the patterns of trues and falses. Value, if true for counting, is going to be 1. We close it off. Let's check this out. F9, and there it is. Now we can simply wrap it inside the sum. Only the ones will be counted. Sum. And here's the crazy thing. When you hit Enter, this is what Leonid pointed out. It doesn't require Control-Shift-Enter. Now, I've seen this type of formula around for years. And I've never seen anyone say, hey, you don't have to use Control-Shift-Enter. But it looks like, hey, there's an array function. It's spitting out an array of values. Now, normally, I always thought that the array function had to be in an argument that was expecting a range of values, right? This is expecting a single true or false. But shoot, it sure looks like it works. Now, I did something crazy down here with the if function. Just to test another array function, you'd never do this. You'd never put trend in there, because trend's spitting out these 3 numbers right here. But I did the same thing as the frequency with the if and the 1, and hit Enter, and it should say 3. And sure enough, it does without Control-Shift-Enter. Again, another example is we're using an array function that's spitting out multiple items and putting them into Hauser functions, and it's not requiring Control-Shift-Enter. This is just amazing. Now, Leonid also pointed out that the sine function is totally amazing. So watch this. I'm going to copy this little bit here. This is spitting out the zeros and positive numbers, right? But we can use the sine function. The sine will convert any positive number to 1, 0 to 0, and negative numbers to -1, which we don't have here. So instead of using the if, you can use the sine. And what does it do? F9. There's our patterns of 1s and 0s. And now you can simply say sum. Again, there's that frequency on the inside. It's an array function spin out multiple values inside some wrapper Hauser functions, sine and sum. And I'm just going to hit Enter. No Control-Shift-Enter. Absolutely amazing. Totally cool to hang out online in our online Excel team. Kind of somewhat known that you can put array functions inside of other functions and not require Control-Shift-Enter. But that is so cool inside the if, doesn't require Control-Shift-Enter. All right, we'll see you next trick.